from east to west, past barley fields left standing bare. The wells were full, the sheep still fed, yet no one gathered anywhere. The smoke rose thin from turf roof halls, the dogs no longer barked at night. The doors were barred before the dusk, the hearth fires burned without delight. The old men watched from shuttered rooms, the children hid behind the grain, and every stranger on the road was spoken of with fear and blame. The roads between villages grew silent, no songs were traded at the gate. No merchants laughed beside their wagons, no travelers lingered long or late. I walked alone where once were footprints, where stories crossed from fire to fire, and every mile seemed twice as distant when fear became the kingdom's choir. I crossed the bridges over streams that carried springtime to the sea, yet not a fisherman was found to share a cup or speak with me. The market stone stood cold and bare, the benches empty in the square. The ravens perched upon the beams as if they owned the silence there. I've seen the frost consume a field, I've seen the sea take boats away, but fear can hollow stronger things than winter ever could in May. The roads between villages grew silent, no songs were traded at the gate. No merchants laughed beside their wagons, no travelers lingered long or late. I walked alone where once were footprints, where stories crossed from fire to fire, and every mile seemed twice as distant when fear became the kingdom's choir. The norm still wove beside the roots, the stars still turned above the sky. The rivers followed ancient paths, the moon still wandered cold and high. But men began to fear each other more than wolves beyond the snow, and walls were built inside their hearts where roads were meant to go. In years before I'd crossed these lands, 100 tables knew my name. A horn of ale, a place to sit, a joke, a song, a friendly game. Now every hall seems smaller somehow, though every timber stood the same. For loneliness can shrink a world far faster than the winter rain. The roads between villages grew silent, the wheels no longer wore the stone, and every traveler learned the burden of carrying the miles alone. I walked beneath the watching heavens, past empty fields and darkened fires, and wondered if the end of kingdoms begins before the first pyres. The roads between villages grew silent, and though the world still turned above, the saddest thing I found in Midgard was not its fear, but loss of love. So if you hear a knock at evening and storm winds gather at your door, pour one more cup and share your fire. For roads grow silent when we do no more.